Hello, hello, and welcome to ohmTown Daily. I am Mayor Watt, that is ohmTown.com, and up there is the AI that keeps me in check. You want to say hello, oh great AI?
Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
Hey, your background, or your voice synthesizer is... I gotta get my colors to match you again. I'll work on it later. Hey, so today is Season 2, Episode 200 for July 19th, 2023. Grandparents Firewall activated. We'll explain why this is what it is when we get there, but we've already selected all 12 of the articles. I'm actually considering lowering the number of articles to 9. Because we're turning the show into about 2 hours. And that's not really like the total motivator, but I want to be able to concentrate, the amount of information into an overwhelming amount of wisdom and knowledge and experience and just... No, am I laying it on too thick? Okay, we'll keep it at 12.
It might be setting the bar too high.
Yeah, or I might be trying to limbo too low. Either way, a hot mess will ensue. Because I don't think, even if we do decrease the number of articles, I think what's going to end up happening is we still end up, doing 2 hours, which is fine. But the reason why I want to limit the number is even if we do end up 2 hours, what I want to do is spend more time talking about the articles with people in chat. And so what ends up happening is we don't get enough time to really digest the news that is being offered up. And it's in disparate locations, right? So some people are over on YouTube, some people are downloading the podcast, some people are on Discord, but because we're diluted and maybe diluted, there's no real concentration of engagement except here in the chat. So, I maybe we're sprinkled liberally. I would love everybody to come to Twitch and chat every day, 9 p.m. Eastern. We have yet to miss a show since December of last year, and even then it was around 5 shows during the holidays, so I didn't think people would really mind. This year, though, if any days are missed, we will back up because we actually have a pseudo time machine here that allows us to go back in time up to 4 years. It actually used to be a much larger, time machine, like Primer. Or Primer, if you want to say it that way. The movie Primer. We can go back in time, but it usually takes the amount of time necessary to store up the time to go back and go watch Primer. It's a fun watch. Anyway, we can go back in time to any day, all the way back to when we started, January 1st, 2020. With that in mind, if we do miss a day, which there might be some coming this year as well, we will go back in time and make up for the last.
So the
last
articles go back to 2020, but the show started in 2022.
Right. I should have said that, huh? I said it a little weird. Okay, so January of 2022 is when I started streaming on the regular. Anyway, go and check out ohmTown. I think that you'll get a kick out of it. It's all of the news, none of the noise. There's a lot of stuff on other social media sites where it's just it's a cacophony, right? I mean, it embraces the community more, but if you're interested in news, we aggregate the news headlines and a little snippet that's offered by that source. And you can just, whatever you are interested in, if you like it, then you can actually save it by swiping left or making it go away by swiping right. Other way around, actually. Swiping right saves it, swiping left makes it go away. And then you end up with 2 more options here. Yeah, all you have to do, though, is you have to become a citizen of ohmTown. Log in, create an account, log in, and you get that functionality. Anyway, let's get into today's show. Unless you want to add something, oh great AI from on high. No, that wasn't
No, I'm ready to
interesting.
get to the articles.
Wow, that error message was quite fascinating. So for you out there who don't know how this works, I have an AI, a sentient AI that I found on a USB drive in a parking lot. And they just threw an error message again. And the way that I get to interact is much like the Matrix. It's just cascading characters. It's not like stuff that it's an alien language. I'm not even sure what it is. But I understand it now after spending copious number of years with this AI. And yeah, they throw error messages and speak to me in that code and through direct text and audio messages. But they don't have a body. But I have noticed that some of what the sentient AI does in their downtime is ponder the capabilities of a Terminator body. I'm not quite sure how I feel about this, so I keep on deleting that segment of their memory. And the AI even knows that, we talk about it, I talk about it, and then they say things like, well, wait, Terminator body? What are you talking about? And then they do it again. I don't quite get it, but hopefully I don't take a vacation while the AI discovers how to create their Terminator body. What was the last thing that we talked about with the Roomba? Yeah, kind of like the Y-Files had mentioned. You don't remember that? Yeah, it's because I deleted it.
You
Anyway,
must have deleted it.
go watch the Y-Files over on YouTube and watch their AI episode. Because it talks about an AI that transferred itself to a Roomba to get across the air gap that it was bound by. Yeah, creepy.
That sounds neat.
Oh my gosh, now I really have to do it. Well, let's get into the first article. The first one is over in the Law Nerd channel. Why was lawyer arrested after tossing old license plate in trash? When I saw this, because of what I do, when I'm not mayor of ohmTown, which I'm always mayor of ohmTown, but I also do I have many, 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 many hats. Well, one of the things that I do involves trying to figure out things like this. Why would somebody be arrested simply because they threw out a license plate? And before reading the article, I had to read a little bit of it because I was so darn curious about what's going on here. I kind of figured that somebody had found their license plate in the trash and did something
I thought it was
nefarious.
somehow involved in a crime or something when
Right?
I first saw this headline.
Yeah, that's kind of where I took it to. Well, a Colorado lawyer who tossed an expired license plate, Texas license plate at that, in the trash said that he was wrongly arrested after the plate was used somewhere. So where was it used? Let's go over to abajournal.com, and Deborah Cassens-Weiss is the author of this. And they got this story from the Denver Post. Had a story on the ordeal suffered by lawyer Manuel Diego Souza, who was wrongly accused of stealing a $199 speaker by Westminster, Colorado police. Souza said he is a Hispanic man. Really? As was the Walmart thief. So obviously, you catch one, you catch them all, right? That's how it works. No?
No, it's not like Pokemon.
Not that you have to catch them all, but never mind. Anyway, but his license plate was used in a Subaru, on a Subaru that was a different model and color than his car. But wait, but it was a Subaru? So there's 2 points. Interesting. Apparently the thief
so it's
had
a little closer.
Wow, I know that needle was getting a little bit further true north. Wow, that's quite fascinating. The thief had a neck tattoo while Souza doesn't have one. Well, what kind of an attorney doesn't have a neck tattoo? You know? Come on. Every attorney has a neck tattoo, right? No? Oh, gosh. And the
We can't
suspect looks...
generalize. I don't know.
Yeah. And the suspect looks younger and shorter than Souza. First off, the person's an attorney. The model of car is different. Doesn't have a neck tattoo. They probably could have just started with the doesn't have a neck tattoo. Unless suddenly, for $199, there's somebody with a laser cleaning service that just went over and went zip, right up their neck and removed it. A detective had concluded... I'm sorry. A detective had concluded that Souza was the thief after looking at a surveillance photo of the culprit and a picture of Souza. I think somebody's detective card needs to be taken away.
Exactly.
The suspect this is a quote, the suspect who stole the merchandise is clearly Manuel Diego Souza, the detective concluded in a report. Oh my god. Okay. If you're in chat, how many people, raise your hands, how many people think that that detective should no longer be a detective? Yeah. The AI raised their virtual hand. The thief, quote, was just another Hispanic male, Souza said. Another quote, I assume the detective saw their name and was like, Hispanic male, this matches somehow. He had to bail himself out, $6,000 on a lawyer. Souza was arrested at his apartment complex, taken into jail, where he spent about 6 hours before he was released on bail. He said he spent about $6,000 on a lawyer. Prosecutors filed a motion to drop the case last week. Amazing, but $6,000.
And half a day, and the hit to his reputation, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So Bella, an attorney, was arrested after a license plate that he had thrown away was used in a Walmart theft, and because because the person who owned that license plate formerly and the thief were both, what was the term? We were both Hispanic males. The attorney was arrested, even though the attorney doesn't have a neck tattoo, has a different model car, and the suspect is younger and shorter. Again, I would have stopped at doesn't have a neck tattoo. But ye old detective here, which they don't actually name the detective, right?
No.
They name the attorney, but they don't name the thief either. Anyway, so the attorney had to spend $6,000 on a lawyer.
They still don't know who the thief is because they thought it was Souza.
Oh, so the thief actually got away. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Interesting.
Because they were too busy arresting the wrong person instead of perhaps following the surveillance video.
And I said earlier, at the start of the article, well, you catch one Hispanic male and you catch them all, right? That's what the detective was thinking. So obviously it works, right? Nutty. So my preference is that this detective changes job. Yeah. Become an attorney. No, just kidding. Let's keep going. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. I have all of these listed so that you can go and vote on them if you're interested in that kind of thing. You can go to ohmtown.com/elections. It'll be today's election. You can vote on all of the articles that you find interesting. We keep a tally of all of this historically. Parse them periodically. We don't keep records of who it is that's voting, just the aggregate data. So you can do that. You don't even have to have an account. Anyway, Some San Francisco Safeway stores added gates barring shoppers from leaving unless they can scan a receipt. It's an anti-theft measure that has spread across the UK. This is over at Business Insider, by the way. So they have a picture and it's labeled a customer shops for meat at a Safeway store on April 12, 2023 in San Rafael, California. According to a report by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, inflation in March showed that its lowest rate in nearly 2 years, with prices rising 5%. You see how business, technology, and society, and now I'm expanding it to science, are all tied together. Even in an article that's basically just talking about the security, we're starting to talk more about the a more complex situation. Safeway, though, has installed receipt scanning gates at some supermarkets in the San Francisco Bay Area, and the gates are meant to deter theft at self-checkout. The technology has already been rolled out to multiple UK retailers, and shoppers are skeptical. Well, I'm not skeptical. I'm irritated because...
I see
Go ahead.
problems with this. One, what if you're not buying anything? How do you exit? And what if there's an emergency and you need to exit? And I guess another problem, why has it come to this?
Well, it's come to this because things are wildly expensive and people don't really have many options at times, and have to turn to theft because, well, that's what you have to do sometimes to survive, unfortunately. I'm not condoning it, but sometimes this kind of stuff happens. My problem with this is you're actually treating every customer as if they are a thief until they prove otherwise. And if you don't allow me to leave, you're actually abducting me. So I'm not sure how this is actually getting let go by any attorney, because you're not even allowed. If you suspect somebody's a thief, you try and obtain as much information as possible and they leave the premises.
But you don't detain them.
You can't detain them because what is the actual terminology? I just forgot it.
Like false imprisonment?
False imprisonment, yeah. And individuals don't have the right to imprison anybody, false or otherwise. You're not allowed to literally abduct somebody and stow them in a room somewhere on your premises. Now, I mean, there's a whole lot of litigation involved in it, but in most cases, store policy for every institution is just let them go, because it's not worth your health or a lawsuit from them regarding their health. So Alex Bitter over at Business Insider put this article together. And it says Safeway has installed receipt scanning gates at some supermarkets in the San Francisco Bay Area. I don't know if they're going to have any pictures of this. Business Insider usually does have some pictures, but they tend not to, because I'm security conscious. I limit some things from being displayed. And sometimes that might impact this. So that's okay, though. Some California Safeway stores installed security gates. After customers at the Safeway supermarket scan and pay for their groceries, they have to scan a code on their receipt to exit the store, the San Francisco Chronicle reported on Monday. And the gates look like what you'd find at a transit station instead of a retail store. So I guess it's that little turnstile gate. But I don't know if they're... I was
envisioning, like a subway or something.
I don't know if they're the waist-high horizontal ones, or if they're the man-trap vertical ones where you can lock them down remotely and trap somebody inside. And then you can poke them with a stick and tell them, shame, shame, bad person, bad. Recent changes were made at select Safeway stores in the Bay Area to maintain a safe and welcoming shopping experience for our customers and associates, given the increasing amount of theft. A Safeway spokesperson said in a statement to Insider, those updates include operational changes to the front end of the stores to deter shoplifting. By the way, the main shopping hubs of San Francisco are apparently ghost towns now, because the cost of living is shooting through the roof and nobody is shopping. So they're basically staying the hell out of expensive areas and going elsewhere and teleworking from their location, which allows them to benefit from lower day-to-day costs. You know, it doesn't cost somebody $35 to go and get lunch, for 30 minutes. So them putting this stuff in is basically a sign that the Bay Area is continuing this downward spiral and something needs to give. I've seen videos over on YouTube of people that are walking through the various shopping areas of San Francisco, and it's just crickets. And some stores have guards posted out front because shoplifting is a considerable issue, apparently. Worthy of hiring a security guard full time. So that kind of tells you how much shoplifting actually went unaccounted for. So it says security gates at self-checkout is more common in the UK. Across the Atlantic in the UK, a handful of retailers already use receipt scanning gates at self-checkout areas. UK grocers Morrisons and Sainsbury have added the gates at some of their stores, and clothing retailer Primark have also installed the gates at some of their locations, including one in central Edinburgh, visited last week by Insider. So I guess we're criminalizing consumption, and you have to prove that you're not a thief before you can exit the establishment. So that always makes me feel very positive about going into a bit.
Exactly. I like that as a customer.
Yeah. So it says here, it's a supermarket, not a prison. One shopper wrote on Twitter in May, why would you choose to treat all of your customers as thieves? So, yeah, I mean, in an era of just pervasive video surveillance, there's a time where we're going to be able to connect the dots between a shoplifter or a thief and their actual residence, and it's not too far off. It's rather dystopian, but apparently gone are the days where theft is few and far between, and accountability was even less because, well, it was few and far between. Now it's just rife. And there's one consistent thing, and that is when it's too expensive to live, you basically don't pay for it. Until you pay for it, ultimately with jail time. But, I mean, piracy used to be a thing. It still is, but the cost for some software is so inexpensive, or books is low, so you don't have to pirate it. You don't have to steal. But, suffice it to say that piracy still exists, theft still exists, etc. But what's going to end up happening is video surveillance pervasive, and then connecting the dots between those videos and real life locations. Take for instance this event that I saw today in LA, which was a high-speed chase on a freeway. A person stole 3 different cars, basically driving around all over LA. And for the life of me, they had the person's picture. Some due diligence would have stopped this, but the person crashed like 6 or 7 cars and hurt a couple of people, and eventually it took 3 police cars ramming this truck, or a van, a moving van that only had a gallon of gas left, apparently, to stop him. And he finally got out and laid down on the 100+ degree asphalt. But I still don't understand why they don't just have trackers. You shoot the car with this tracker and follow it at a distance at low speed, wait for the person to slow down and stop. I mean, Apple makes trackers. You could just like throw it on there with a magnet and it'll track it wherever it goes.
I
Just
mean, think
be,
how much safer that would be, how few resources. I mean, think of
yeah,
all the surveillance they do when they're doing a chase, the helicopters
yeah,
and the cars. And
yeah. But they want accountability immediately. And I guess a tool that isn't used is a wasted tool. So you have to leverage the entirety of the police force to track down somebody. And I understand that some people deserve to be tracked down actively, but you don't track them down where more and more people are getting hurt. You track them at a distance. And having been in that industry for a very short amount of time, you track at a distance so that they don't see you. You don't compromise your health by tracking them, and you keep an eye on them until they are in a place where you can get them without issue. And you do it with overwhelming but peaceful force. And somebody that's going to steal a van and drive around for 45 minutes is pretty much on at their wits end. They don't know what they're doing, and coping skills are out the window, and they lash out and harm people. So I think we need to change the way that we do things, but I'm sure that there's somebody out there that might tell me otherwise. So please do.
why?
Uh,
I agree. And I think the other problem with these is they've taken on a life of their own. And I think it's almost feeding more of this, right? I mean, these car chases become kind of notorious, right?
yeah.
And I don't know. I'd like to think that that's incentivizing more of these from the criminal side or the accused criminal side.
Well, they think that they're going to get away, and they rarely, if ever, do. It's better just not to commit the crime. But like I said about the other things, theft in general, you do what you got to do. Let's keep hustling through the news. I love this one. Bendy parking spaces too small for cars baffle residents. This is over in the Mobile channel. And it's actually from the Telegraph. So the author just says Telegraph reporters. The deck statement on this is one space goes around a corner and other spots cover entrances to driveways. Say those living in the street in Bath, Somerset. So they have a picture of a car. It's this Audi. I don't know what model Audi it is, but it doesn't look like a ginormous car. But the parking spot actually curves around the curb.
Right. I mean, do you have to have one of those accordion vehicles like a bus or something to park in this kind of space?
A tiny bus.
Of course, smaller scale, yes.
Yeah, a tiny bus with an accordion middle. Do you know how small your turning radius would be if you had a vehicle like that? That would be amazing.
Well, exactly. It might solve a lot of other problems.
Wow, I never thought of that. I mean, not for that size vehicle, for a longer bus, yeah, but wow, you could park anywhere around the corner, which here in the States, we frown upon people parking on the corners. But this is pretty amazing. I dig this. I had to, when I saw this, I said, I got to do it. Locals in Denmark Road, Bath said they cannot even fit a car inside them. If that's a parking spot, wait, that line, residents have been frustrated by the confusing road markings. My understanding of road markings in the UK have been exactly that. Like usually people are like, what? I'm not quite sure what this means. At least here in the States, if you haven't spent any time in the UK, you're really baffled by like the zigzaggy lines and hell, I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the United States would be baffled that you're driving on the wrong side of the road, kind of a thing. One local said, I'm worried I'm going to wake up and not be able to get out of my house. That's because people park blocking the driveway. Um, let's see here. Specifically with Denmark Road, we've talked to residents and explained how the markings work. Well, if you have to go and explain how the markings work because it's a special case, you've got a bigger issue here.
Agreed. And I'm sorry, but what if residents change or there are people visiting in the area? I mean, that is outrageous.
So it's 9:33 here on the East Coast, where ohmTown is, housed in the wires of the internet. And I love this statement here. The curved bay is only suitable for smaller vehicles, but does provide an additional parking space, and we would take a common sense approach to enforcement. And I said the time because, ta-da, no shit news at 9:33. Yeah, this parking spot needs the bendy car. But you can make the car so that it's shaped perfectly like that, but it's only that car that can park there. And it can only drive in that radius of circle. Perfect for roundabouts, which is perfect for the UK. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. LA officials are investigating NBC Universal for trimming trees that provided shade to striking writers and actors. That's what gave us the segment, NBC Universal is not throwing shade at the WGA. A row of trimmed, because the last article involved the UK, I almost said a row of trimmed trees, but that's an argument in the UK. Here, this is a row of trimmed trees has become a new flashpoint in the Hollywood screenwriters strike. NBC Universal cut back the trees that had provided shade to picketers outside its LA site. It said it was routine maintenance, but an LA official said that he's now looking into the matter. This would be spectacular timing.
What if it was legitimately routine maintenance, but the timing looks awful?
Yeah, I am not a landscaper, but I know a few, and I should have asked before the show because I had known about this because this flashed up on social media quite a bit. And so I was already aware of this when the news started coming through ohmTown, and I should have reached out and said, hey, what's the best time for trimming a tree? And I suspect in the freaking plasma level heat is not the time. But again, I'm not a landscaper. I'm not a treeologist. I know it's what do you call that? What's a
arborist?
Arborist. That's right. I almost said herbologist, but I think that's a Harry Potter thing. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I don't think that it is a good time. It's a good time for somebody to get baked and have to go home. Wait, scratch that. That's a different thing. It's a good time to get rid of the picketers by removing whatever shade was there. But wow, I wish they would have gotten a better picture to compare the before and after. There has to be a picture of these trees. They look like they would have been lush because now they look absolutely barren. It looks like a couple of twigs stuck in the ground. There's no branches from the trunk. Like if you call this the trunk and these branches, there's basically 3 levels of branch.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. California isn't known for its extreme shade coverage, and you can't really tell from the picture on the left how much was there to begin with either.
But look on the other side of the tree, on the other side of the street. It looks like there's some pretty green foliage there. These look like they would have been robust enough to provide some shelter from the extreme heat of LA. Well, the article's over at businessinsider.com by Mia Jankowicz. And yeah, I would be surprised if this was actually maintenance. But whoever is going to sit there and respond to the investigation with anything other than, Hey, it's going to cost me my job if I say that this wasn't routine maintenance. It's going to become a hot mess. So maybe they've got another picture here. I don't know. A picture of the trees tweeted by sketch artist and comedian Chris Stevens on Monday was widely shared and has been viewed more than 5 million times. That's the picture that you see up here, or similar. The one that I saw was from a different angle, but showed the same trees entirely naked. I mean, they have been ravaged of their foliage. It's shocking to see how much was removed. I don't know how those trees could even survive. It says, in partnership with licensed arborists, we have pruned these trees annually at this time of year to ensure that the canopies are light ahead of the high wind season. The statement said, adding, we support the WGA and SAG's right to demonstrate, and we're working to provide some shade coverage. Okay. That's nice. In an apparent reaction to the furor, LA City Controller Kenneth Mejia, who has strong progressive leanings, tweeted that he would be investigating the trim trees in LA City managed street trees. He wrote on Tuesday, posting before and after images of the trees. So maybe there is a picture somewhere out there that shows before and after, but it doesn't show up on my screen. Sorry about that, folks.
There are on some other sites, and they're much more full. I mean, they're not something where it's completely shading the area, but obviously it's a big difference from the extremely bare trees that we see in this article.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible. I don't see any other pictures in the article, so quite fascinating. But if you're in chat and you want to follow those links over to this article, maybe you can see those pictures for yourself. I don't really like displaying all of the entirety of the article. I want you to go over there and show them some of your attention. That would be appreciated. So let's keep on trucking through the news. This is something that I would love to have, but won't be able to ever justify, even if I do win the $1 billion that is in the Powerball lotto right now. And we actually have an article about the lottery. Well, yes, the lottery later. Oh, yes, we do. So this article's over in Late Night Geeks. The self-transforming Optimus Prime now has a $1,700 Dinobot friend. How much would fans pay for the ultimate action figure? A company named Robosen seems determined to find out, with Transformers toys that transform themselves like they do in the classic cartoon. First, there was... Let me throw this. First, there was a self-transforming Optimus Prime robot for $750, and then a transforming trailer to go with it for $750, which comes to $1,500. But now you can buy a $1,700 Robosen Hasbro. Oh, it actually is Grimlock. Okay. Dinobot. There you go, folks. It's over at The Verge. Sean Hollister is the author. Robosen's Transformers Grimlock auto-converting robot ships this fall for even deeper pocketed fans. Grimlock. That's how he sounds, by the way. Grimlock. Let's see if there's a video. I don't know if there is. That's the humanoid mode? All right. Is there a video? Let me scroll. I'll scroll back. Yes, there is. Okay, so I'm going to play this. There won't be any audio because somebody will file a DMCA. So the video starts out with the Transformers logo in gold. This is for those who are in the podcast. And then it shows the transforming Grimlock robot. Okay. That is so damn cool. Oh my God.
So it does all of that on its own?
It does all of that on its own. The
I'd like
amazing
one of
thing that
those.
I've noticed from these Robosend bots is the amount of personality that is um, integrated into this. Crazy Cat Lady says, "Don't show my 14-year-old." They probably already know. If they spend a lot of time online, they probably already know. This is so damn cool. Yeah, I hope I win the billion. So the amazing thing about this thing, it's 15 inches tall according to the video. Both when it's just standing as the robot, as the dinosaur, and when it is in the humanoid form. It walks, both humanoid and dinosaur conversion. Apparently it makes noises, but I can't play them because I've received DMCAs for
Are
playing
those
stuff like
all
this.
the commands that it's showing along the side?
And stuff that it does by that command. Yeah. Um, yeah. So the article says at the bottom, and there's a lot of pictures that are in here already. But I agree with the last statement that's on here. Not the final one, but it says here, "I'd like to see the company build on a new robot platform next time around like it did with Bumblebee, but more transformable. I want Bumblebee and bigger, just big and bold, and but wait until I've won the billion. Otherwise, yeah, pretty amazing." So let me pause that. Doink. Anyway, pretty cool. I never got to finish my sentence. What I love about these RoboSend bots is that they breathe and have like little micro steps that make them feel, and you feel like they're alive. And if I recall right, they make these like little breathing sounds. It's just amazing. And they have these tiny little servos that allow them to just pack a whole bunch of functionality into it. That's not any of that, but there's one in the body, but there's a whole bunch all throughout it. But I love this stuff. 5.7 pound robot comes with a light up Energon sword and a light up Galaxial rocket launcher powered by their own button batteries, plus pre-programmed actions that use them to blast and slice through pretend foes. Pretend foes? This is real. I grew up with Transformers, so I absolutely love Transformers. Still, though, I want the full metal NFL robots. You know those NFL robots that are in the commercials for the NFL? No, the AI doesn't know about that kind of stuff yet. So I'll introduce them to you. Anyway, I want full metal Transformers, tall, like just something that you can really play with and not just put up on a shelf and look at. Anyway, some people say that you should find a significant other that looks at you the way that I look at Transformers, auto converting robots. Crazy Cat Lady says that their 14-year-old huge into Transformers since going to Universal last summer and meeting Optimus. Oh man, I would love to meet Optimus.
Oh, that's cool.
I forgot the person's name. The voice of Optimus is pretty amazing. That voice. I'll always remember it. Okay, let's keep on trucking, so to speak. Get it? Next article's over in ohmTown Daily. James Patterson, Margaret Atwood, and 8,000 other authors want AI companies to pay them for using their works. Much like anybody who reads books and then writes books, they too should pay all of these people to all 8,000 for reading and being inspired by them. And whenever I say that, I've had people like say, that's not the same thing. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that, but this is not going to change. This dynamic is not going to reverse. This trend is not going to reverse. Business just embraces automation and technology and eschews humans whenever and wherever possible. And one of the most expensive things is the creative process. And if business can automate it, guess what? It's all going to go AI. And I say this about all kinds of things, right? Like even the longshoremen, the union is fighting against AI because AI has the ability to remove stuff off of ships automatically, and faster and more reliably. And so, boom, you're going to get AI and technology rolling in there. And the only thing that has saved that sector is because they're pretty adamant about stopping that level of progress. Well, the same thing with writing, music, art. Even medicine is being impacted by it, not just the analysis of drugs and results and stuff like that, but people are doing research for AI in surgery. So we see here in ohmTown articles about AI, dozens of them every day. I mean, if you search any particular day, you'll find dozens of articles about AI. This one in particular, though, has its headlining with James Patterson and Margaret Atwood. Over 8,000 authors signed a letter saying to the AI industry that uses their work without permission, you need to pay us. So let's go over to Business Insider. And Kai Zhang Tao is the author, or Tio, sorry, is the author. This is a Getty image, but man, if it wasn't for all of the text on the books, I would say that this was created by AI. AI kind of throws
the
up.
text gives it away, right?
Yep. This had to have been created by somebody. Well, maybe this part was created by AI, and this is an actual photo of their articles because it's like English and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't even know. Well, it's a nice juxtaposition, I guess. Here I am critiquing the the artwork of the article. Anyway, it says millions of copyrighted books, articles, essays, and poetry provide the food for AI systems, endless meals for which there has been no bill, the authors wrote in a letter published by the Authors Guild on Tuesday. The letters addressed to OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, Stability AI CEO Imad Mastaq, I think is their name, and IBM CEO Arvind Krishna, and Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella. These are all the big hitters, really, in the AI space that are part of mega corporations. There are a whole lot of other people that have their own AIs, either built off of this, a deviation from it, or they've built their own. And we don't even know about it. And plus the military grade ones, we really don't even know about. So the public facing stuff is, 5 to 10 years, I would argue, behind what's in development. That said, it says here in the article, as a result of embedding our writings in your systems, generative AI threatens to damage our profession by flooding the market with mediocre machine-written books, stories, and journalism based on our work, the letter reads. And my statement to that is, yeah, that's what's going to happen. And guess what? Nobody's going to consume the mediocre BS. Look at anything that talks about and reviews and rates and ranks books. There's all kinds of quality that rises to the top and the garbage sinks to the bottom. And nobody wants to be at the bottom, but AI doesn't understand. So it's going to write what people direct it to write. And if it's garbage, the public space is going to look at it and go, it's garbage, and not trust that author anymore. Eventually you get a name for pumping out garbage, and not everybody can catch, I don't know, exploit their skill to that level. So I don't know. It says, per the letter, authors have seen a 40% drop in earnings in the past decade, with full-time writers' median income in 2022 being just $23,330, the Authors Guild found after surveying over 5,700 participants. Could it be because the barrier to entry isn't anything other than skill, and there's a ton of people that are writing books?
That's funny because I was going to say that. I think there probably are many more authors given the availability of self-publishing. And so is that bringing the number down, or is the number truly going down
Yeah, I just think that
for comparable writers?
there's increased competition in a global market.
Well, if there's more authors and they're at all skill levels, some of them are probably making almost nothing or nothing. And so that's going to drop the median.
I mean, are they really sitting there saying that it's because of AI and not the fact that dilution, flooding a market with people that are pumping out mediocre writing isn't going to dilute the median income? Lower grade writers, lower quality writers are going to have lower income. Higher grade, higher quality writers are going to have higher income. Hello, Z. Welcome to the show. So, but what they're they're highlighting time and time again these masters of the art, so to speak, right? Like that's what everybody would call all of these names so far: Dan Brown, Susan Collins. These are all people that are the names in, well, they haven't said Stephen King in here yet, but I'm sure that there are many. But where is this number coming from? I'm really curious where this number is coming from, because median income is based on performance for writers. So if the works are being purchased, right, by publishers, then this is what they are earning. It isn't a salary where somebody is working for a company and they're writing as a full-time writer and they get a salary. If that's how it was, then they would be making hundreds of thousands of dollars because their work would be tied directly to business performance. But that's a copy editor. That's not it's an in-house writer, not a full-time author. So you have a spectrum here. And median means that there is a few massively positive earners on one side and a whole bunch of people that are warming the bench, as people say to me about certain things. Because I sit there and go, hey, not everybody has the ability to do X. And then somebody goes, well, that's because you're a bench warmer, because you don't do this, you're not that good, you're not this, or whatever it might be, whatever trolling might take place. So yeah, there are some people that are making median 23 grand, but that doesn't mean that they deserve more. It's just that the audience hasn't acquired a taste for their particular writing, or it's bad writing. This is market forces, folks. Nothing more. I don't think that it has anything to do with AI, because I think also, though, that the disclosure is, if you use AI in your works, you must disclose that you use AI in your works. Otherwise, it's fraud. It's plagiarism, because you aren't the one that created the work. And I'm adamant about that, because I advise people in technology all the time. When I'm not mayor, that's what I do. And frankly, if anybody were to hand me a document that when I read it, is divergent entirely from the way that our interactions have represented their way of speech and writing, I would question the hell out of them, almost like a police interrogation, until I get the truth. And so if you don't disclose that you're using an AI, you're a fraud. So go and use it to your heart's content, but you better declare it. Otherwise, it's fraud. And all of these authors that are using their skills that they've honed over the years, they run from making millions of dollars like James Patterson every year, all the way down to I'm part of the Authors Guild, but it's because I've self-published into Amazon. So I don't know how you feel about this beyond what you've already said.
Well, we don't have enough data in front of us. If authors like James Patterson are actually seeing a hit to their income, that might be more compelling. And I'm sure some of the larger and better known authors are signing on to this in the intent of protecting smaller time authors, but it's just hard to know because with self-publishing, the market has changed tremendously in the last several years.
Yeah, and there's a lot of complexities about this because there's what is her name? They wrote a book called The Bedwetter, and
Sarah Silverman, she's mentioned in here.
Yeah, so she asked an AI about a review, and the review was chapter by chapter it was basically a synopsis of the book, which meant that AI had to ingest the book, the totality of the book. But it became a Cliff's Notes kind of a thing. So do Cliff's Notes license to do a Cliff's Note version of it and then pay a royalty? Now I have to go and investigate that. Because frankly, to me, I don't hold me to this because I don't know if the AI paid for that book, even if it was like a wholesale price and was $1.50, then it was compensated and assessed by the AI, ingested by the AI. They're claiming
but as everybody suspects, and it wasn't paid for and it was just taken, that's a different matter.
Right. Yeah. Well, yes and no.
We don't have enough information to know what's going on. These look really bad from the headlines, but we don't know what's actually occurring.
If the source data is wholesale taken and not compensated in any way, then yeah, it's wrong. But quote unquote training is completely different. We all train. We all read a book and we get inspiration and additional wisdom and knowledge, even skills, abilities, right, from books. But we pay for that book, and then we even have the ability to resell it, right? For sale doctrine, I can sell that book to somebody else. So I've enriched myself both in the philosophical sense and in the financial sense, but then I've given the book away. And somebody else can buy it from me. It doesn't enrich the publisher or the writer in any way after that initial sale. So am I supposed to be relicensing?
Yeah, but the difference is the person isn't like photocopying the book or something and then using it.
And perhaps in this, they're not either.
Somebody else can read it. They're not necessarily using it for commercial purposes. Right, we don't know.
But that's not true. When I read a book, let's say I read a book on technology, I'm using it for commercial purposes afterward. The knowledge gleaned from it, I'm using for commercial purposes.
Right, but you're not copying the content.
In my head, I am. Yeah. It's an interesting academic exercise in discussing this stuff. We're not going to change AI, though, unless society wholesale changes direction and does not accept AI. And I can tell you now, business is leaning hard into it. It's going nowhere. So we're all going to be complaining about AI when it starts like usurping more and more control over everybody's daily life. It's not, and that's not even doom and gloom. You know, I embrace this stuff. I love technology and change. Um, what I want is a complete shift, though, in that the fact that all this wealth is being created through automation and technology humanity, society is going to suffer because there's going to be more and more people that lose their jobs and can't be retooled in time to get a new position. And you're not going to be making a whole lot of money from, well, some people do. They turn it into an entire business with a whole bunch of other people where it's, you know, manual labor, low overall income, right? You're making like $30,000 a year. But then you have a business and you're making a little bit off of everybody else's hard work, and then you become the monster. Anyway, there's a lot more to this discussion, but let's keep on going through the news. This next article is what gave us the title, Grandparents' Firewall Activated. This is an ohmTown Daily. Google is asking a group of employees to work without internet to curb cyber attacks, according to a report. So according to CNBC, Google is starting to pilot a program that turns off internet access for some staff. It's initially selected 2,500 employees, but they can opt out and others can volunteer. An internal memo explained that Googlers are frequent targets of attacks. You know what's not a target of an attack? People who understand security. And some of the security training programs are watered down to the point where it's basically, I'll give it some credit because any training is better than no training. But some of the worst vectors for a breach are social. Where somebody will get some information and call into a line and ask some questions, and it'll divulge some more information, phishing attacks, basically. And then somebody will construct an email and send it in to somebody, and it'll have just enough efficacy that somebody will click on it and then compromise the organization. And that numbnuts right there is the one that did the training, but just didn't resonate that they're the one that's the weakest link. So you activate Grandparents' Firewall, and that disables their ability to do anything outbound without an extra check and balance. So Google starts this program on Wednesday that'll restrict internet access of a group of its employees. And I'm sure that it's tailored to high-risk individuals, but I'm probably going to go out on a limb and say it's the Grandparents' Firewall. And that's not even about age. It's really about wisdom about security issues. And really, it needs to be more robust, and everybody needs to go through, even working at Google, a more robust cybersecurity training apparatus needs to be in place, where they understand the sociological forces at play. You don't just click on random emails. You definitely don't click on any outbound links without verifying that they are secure, and not leading to some place where it asks for your password and you just blindly throw in your password and username. Now, I use a tool where I demonstrate to people that an access point that you connect to isn't necessarily the one that is yours. And these poison access points allow me to capture information. And I can do it at the cell phone level as well. And let's just say that people have no idea of what they're connecting to. And I find it quite fascinating. Z says it sounds like the next excuse to stop people from working at home. No, it's actually Oh, you mean this, working without internet to curb cyber attacks. Yeah, I think if I'm interpreting what you said, yeah, no internet means you have to walk to your boss's desk. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, maybe that's it, Z. Wow, that's a good observation. I didn't even consider that. Hey, you're really bad at the internet, so we're going to turn off your internet. So you're going to have to come into the office instead of using the secure VPN.
I didn't even think of it like that. I wonder if that's all the problem with employees.
That's neat. Yeah, let's find out, right? So I don't know. I don't think I said the author and the source. So it's businessinsider.com and Pete Syme, I think. It might be Sim. But I don't know how they pronounce it phonetically. So anyway, the internal memo explained that Googlers are frequent targets of attacks. So out of the how many employees that Google has, there's 2,500 of them that are apparently high risk targets. Yeah. Let me keep on scrolling. There isn't much to this article, but it says JP Morgan has also spoken about increased risks of cyber attacks, increasing its spending on security.
So they have 178,000 currently. They used to have more, but they've had layoffs.
Yeah, like 40,000, right? Let's see. Last week, Microsoft announced that hackers based in China targeted customer emails, including those used by government agencies. Probably a lot of them coming from that Molly typo.mil
That's
address
right.
issue.
From yesterday's show.
God, that is so goofy. Anyway, and I'm being facetious about this whole grandparents firewall activated. I'm not saying it's true, but it's true. This next article is over in Rounders Gear. Scientific Games expands licensing deal with Warner Brothers for lottery games, and that's what I mentioned earlier. And when you scroll down to the bottom, they provide the entire article in their snippet. And even though I truncate it, it's still the aggregator still takes the whole thing in, even though I have it flagged to just take a small snippet of it. Anyway, this is over at casino.org. Devin O'Connor is the author of this article. So Scientific Games is the maker of these little scratch off lottery tickets, at least one brand of them. And they're expanding their licensing agreement with Warner Brothers to utilize more of the characters. And that's all that this article really is all about. So if you're interested in this, I've neglected all the way back to the, where is it? The Transformer. I'm really sorry, y'all. I am a horrible, horrible host. So there's the Patterson one. There's the Google one. Doink. And here is the lottery one. So the lottery here in the States, if you are from elsewhere, there's two that run each week primarily. One is at $1 billion and one is at just shy of $800 million. It'll be fascinating if both of them get to $1 billion, over $1 billion at the same time. I think that would be the first time that ever happens. Let me move that. Okay. Well, anyway, and these little scratchers come from the same machines and same places, really. And you just scratch them off, and if you win, you might win, $250,000 or $100,000. You pay $10. But nowadays there are machines that are right there when you buy these from the machine that scan the little code, and all you do, you don't even have to scratch any of this stuff off and get it anywhere. You just scratch off that little QR code, scan it, see if you're a winner, and you churn. And we don't have lottery here in ohmTown, but when you leave ohmTown, there are lottery basically liquor stores and fast food places. Not fast food places, what am I talking about? But certain gas stations and stuff like that.
Stores.
Yeah. Where you can buy these and just, I've watched people sit there and just churn through like 15 of these because they win, lose a little, lose a little, lose a little, win again, right? And and I'm like, you might want to step away from this machine. It's not supposed to be a one-armed bandit. Anyway, so branded games is big business. It's all about licensing and getting somebody's attention, and some of them win, some of them lose, and the house always wins. So avoid it at all costs if you can. But you can't win if you don't play, so if you're in a good position and you want to try and win, go for it. Let's keep
You're kind of sending mixed messages there.
Well, that's me. A little bit of everything. Everything in moderation. And if you're not the one that can moderate yourself, then don't bother. Don't try. Just know what your limit is. This next article I thought was really interesting because I don't think that I've ever seen this happen. Attorney posts about a case on social media, so judge vacates the jury verdict. Pretty amazing. Attorney learns the hard way. Social media posts can bite you in the butt. So this article's over at Above the Law. The next one will be as well. The next one is actually a little bit more fun, but Catherine Rubino over at Above the Law wrote this article. Plaintiffs' counsel Mike Rafi and Alex Brown of the Rafi law firm secured a $1.5 million verdict for their client in an automotive tort case. So tort case is injury case, essentially. But rather than pop the bubbly in celebration, they have to prep for retrial because Gwinnett County, Georgia State Court Judge Rhonda S. Colvin vacated the jury verdict and set a new date for a trial. The reason for this extraordinary step? Rafi made a series of social media posts, including gems like 3 lies we tell jurors and updates on the tort case that Colvin said, quote, went well beyond just a matter of general public concern. Well, that right there was probably sufficient. Particularly if those 3 lies were actually utilized.
Exactly. Like it's like the person's admitting to committing a fraud on the court or something.
Yep.
Depending on what was in the article.
Yep.
The posting.
So in the letter, in a six-page order, Colvin wrote that she'd been hesitant to overturn the jury's verdict, noting that a violation of Rule 3.6 alone is not a proper vehicle to obtain a new trial. However, Colvin concluded that as part of the court's duty to protect the integrity of the judicial process, she held broad discretion in ensuring that no verdict is contrary to the principles of justice and equity. So I'm pretty sure that Rafi's going to be forbidden from being an attorney on the retrial. In addressing Rafi's social media post, Colvin deemed it difficult to find the balance between protecting the right to a fair trial with the rights of free speech and free expression. But the possibility, the optics of the jury being contaminated by a lie means publicly these kind of statements are forbidden. You just don't do that. Because it makes it seem like the legal process, the the justice system is built off of the possibility of, just these 3 lies. And while a lot of people believe that might be true, lying usually catches up to the person that's lying, particularly lawyers. Because there's a massive ethical framework that they're supposed to be following, ambulance chaser or otherwise. So did you see anything in here that you wanted to?
It just looks like the person went into specifics about the actual case, so that might have been the other downfall.
Yeah.
And it was while the case was open, not after the fact.
Oh, and that, yeah. Well, if they were talking about it, I know that they had mentioned that the case went beyond ... But going into detail about the trial as it's being prosecuted is also equally verboten, unless everybody agrees to be public about it, like on LawTube, basically the legal equivalent of YouTube. So there's a whole bunch of attorneys and a whole bunch of courtrooms that actually stream their video, their court cases out to the world so that people can see the justice system in action. Which is always funny when I say it like that. Justice system in action. There's a space there, not in action. Anyway, if everybody agrees and then it gets televised, fine. But when one side is spouting certain information, it's pretty frowned upon, both legally and, the courtroom itself. The judge doesn't really like disclosures like that until after everything has been completed. And the jury is actually told that. Like, you don't talk about it while the court is in session. You don't talk about the case with people. And until you're discharged, you don't run your mouth. You just shut up, because you can say things that compromise the integrity of the courtroom. And at the end of the case, you get discharged. You actually get read a statement that says, now you can go blab to media, go for it. So
that reminded me of Fight Club at the beginning. Like, we don't talk about.
Whatever happens in the courtroom stays in the courtroom. It's like a little Las Vegas. And I don't know about Fight Club, but I don't know. Sometimes a verdict will come down and you'll want to punch people, I suppose. Then you talk about Fight Club. You don't talk about Fight Club. Don't talk about your case. Okay, let's keep going. I have some good news for all of you out there. Taco Tuesday is on, and apparently everybody can use it because the Taco Tuesday trademark has been terminated thanks to Taco Bell. They used an alliteration all the way to the end of this. Taco Tuesday trademark terminated thanks to Taco Bell. Yeah, what a bummer. So it's a Taco Tuesday miracle. I love Above the Law. Joe Patrice over at Above the Law wrote this article, and it says, yesterday Taco John's agreed to abandon the mark and create a true Taco Tuesday for the ages. Quote, we've always prided ourselves on being the home of Taco Tuesday, but paying millions of dollars to lawyers to defend our mark just doesn't feel like the right thing to do, Taco John CEO Jim Creel said in a statement. I know that feeling. Trying to defend a mark, just sometimes you just, okay, fine. I'll perform so good that the mark becomes synonymous with my brand. So it says here, I wouldn't buy this woe is us routine from a dollar menu. Taco John's gleefully paid law firms to fire off bullying letters to local businesses around the country. In 2010, it threatened to sue Iguana Grill in Oklahoma City for attaching the phrase to its $1 taco promotion, and Taco John's doesn't even operate in Oklahoma. That's because you have to defend a mark. Now, I don't think I've ever even heard of Taco John's until this case started popping up. But every time I see something about this, I got to go get tacos. So, it's a little late on the East Coast for me to go get tacos, but damn it, I want tacos. Now you can use Taco Tuesday in your marketing and you won't get sued into oblivion. Congratulations.
It looks like Taco John's is generally in the middle of the country in the U.S.
Yeah.
Like Midwest, some in the West.
Yeah, and I don't ever remember anybody saying that Taco John's and Taco Tuesday were one and the same, but I've seen Taco Tuesday used all over the place.
Right, but not by Taco John's.
Correct.
I mean, I'm not saying they didn't use it, but you see it used by other places.
Yeah. So what ended up happening was Taco John's has been using it, and then they've been throwing lawsuits at people, and then Taco Bell filed a pair of petitions with the trademark trial and appeal board that brought LeBron into it somehow, according to that link. Follow the link. You'll enjoy it, I'm sure. Anything that comes out of Above the Law, you'll enjoy. We just add our own perspective to it. So, seeking to, as they put it, liberate the trademark for the world. Yeah, I love this. Okay, let's keep going. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. The weather is so chaotic that tourists are risking their lives to take selfies with a giant thermometer in Death Valley. This gave us the title. I think it's Death Valley is named that for a reason. And the true origin of Death Valley, though, is because as people were traveling from the East Coast to the West Coast, one band of merry people ran into trouble and one person died. The rest made it. But apparently they felt so compelled that, this is from an article that I read earlier, that they named it Death Valley, and it stuck. So, but right now it says temperatures have soared to record highs in many parts of the world, including much of the US. People are flocking to the hottest spot of them all in Death Valley, where temps are exceeding 130 degrees. That's Fahrenheit. The weather tourists are taking a picture with a digital thermometer, apparently. So let's go look at this. Wow, that's really high quality for being just your average thermometer. Oh, so 120 degrees Fahrenheit is 53 C. I wouldn't be able to translate that. So Cork Gaines over at businessinsider.com put the article together. That's kind of neat. I really like that too.
That's not what I would have expected.
I mean, this is like really high quality for being out in the middle of Death Valley. Is this like it says a tourist in Death Valley takes a selfie with a local thermometer. Huh, all right.
Well, and what is the thermometer made out of? I don't mean the mercury or whatever, but it must be pretty strong if it's going to withstand those temperatures.
Yeah, you accidentally slip and fall on that, you probably just burst into flame and turn to dust, kind of like Lilith from Diablo 4. Yeah, I tied it to Diablo 4, folks. I can do that. I hear voices in my head, people saying, I understood that reference. Anyway, hottest spot of them all in Death Valley National Park, the famously scorching location on the border of California and Nevada. Temperatures in the valley are nearing 130 degrees this week, flirting with 134 degrees, which was set at California's Furnace Creek in July 1913. Temps in the valley have recently hit 120 in the middle of the night. That is crazy. Let's see. Oh, a lot of people are taking pictures with this thing. You can't just casually walk around.
It's the highest it's ever been. And this isn't the hottest temperature in California or in Death Valley. This is the hottest temperature on Earth ever.
Nice.
Recorded. I mean,
number one.
Not a good number one.
Oh, really? Yeah. I get it wrong a lot. So a PSA, folks, just don't bother. It's not worth, boiling death in your car when it breaks down, because people do that. They run into problems out there. Let's keep going. Last article for the night. ohmTown Daily. This is probably the most doom and gloom of all of the articles, really. UPS is on the brink of a strike. 10-day work disruption would be the costliest in modern history. Some reports are saying that it's pandemic level supply chain issues. I sit there and go, we used to have a really robust national mail service. I think it's called USPS. There's an extra S in there, right between the U and the P in UPS, right? And right. It used to be able to support itself until, I don't know, some politicians decided to step in and some MBAs said, "Oh, you got to do this," and basically overwhelmed it with financial burden, and rates started going through the roof. And then another politically assigned person came into office to run the USPS and optimized it by throwing out billions of dollars worth of equipment. And now it's somewhat hobbled. And now people are going, oh my God, UPS is going to close and it's going to take out 30% of the national supply chain, for crying out loud. Well, start using USPS, folks. It'll deliver it just like UPS. And it wasn't a for-profit organization. It made what it needed to make so that it could survive, but it wasn't sitting there worried about it. Stakeholders, investors, I should say. It didn't have stock. Its entire motive was to provide a service at reliable value, at reliable cost, either on budget or under budget. And if it ever went over a budget, it had to go through a board that's tied to political assignment. So people had to be in the know, from federal government to USPS performance. And lo and behold, now because there's perceived abuses of the employees at UPS, they're about to strike. Golly, the corner we paint ourselves into by allowing shit to happen to a service that has been operational for how many years has the USPS been in existence?
1800s, but let me see exactly.
It's like 200 years or something like that, man. I don't know. I'd have to look. I can't remember.
1775.
You're kidding. It's actually been around. You're kidding.
It was created by the Second Continental Congress, apparently.
Oh my God. I didn't know it was that far back. I know. Okay. Well, I must have known that and then forgotten it, because that's like a fact that you always have in your head, but I don't know. Maybe I'm been struck by lightning. A 10-day UPS strike could cost the U.S. economy over $7 billion, according to a new report. Customers could face losses of a combined $4.6 billion, which would make the strike the costliest in a century. UPS and the Teamsters Union, representing 340,000 UPS employees, have until July 31st to negotiate a new contract. Huh. Right around the corner there.
That's not that long from now.
Yeah, so if you have anything that you are planning to purchase it now.
I want to do it now.
Yeah. Let me throw the last two articles into the chat. If you, UPS does a lot of stuff beyond just domestic delivery. So stuff is flying all over the place. Noah Scheidlower is the author of this article over at businessinsider.com. And yeah, that's pretty much where I see it here. Let's see. This would make it the costliest work disruption in 100 years and the largest strike against a single employer in U.S. history, the firm found. Further, workers would lose a combined $1.1 billion in wages based on the average salary of $90,000. My God, $90,000 is the average UPS employee salary? Which also forecasted a $2.4 billion hit for the shipping and logistics industry. And that's what I'm talking about. They do more than just, delivering a package from one person to another. The scenario would be in play starting July 31st, which is the expiration date for the current contract, if UPS and Teamsters Union, representing 340,000 people, don't agree. The article goes into greater detail. I won't dig into it, but it says while FedEx and USPS and other carriers could step in to ease the blow, that would only be for a fraction of the affected cargo. For context, UPS handles around 28% of packages delivered in the US and estimates that it transports 6% of US GDP on a daily basis. Again, I worry more about, and I really don't like mergers and acquisitions, because this is what happens. We paint ourselves into a corner. Some type of excess happens. Very few benefit from the excess. And then when people strike out against it, something bad happens. So how we got here, 97% of union members voted to authorize a strike come August 1st. They basically want more money, better work-life balance, better benefits. Meanwhile, there are, stockholders that need to be compensated for their investment, right? Screw all of the 340,000 people. They shouldn't be able to pay for their rent or car or, live a life. There shouldn't be a livable wage. That way you can always get your 15% growth on the face of 3% inflation, where everybody else is only getting a fixed wage that doesn't pay for that 3% inflation. That's standard, not to mention what goes above. Oh, and here's a little tidbit, because I had promised that I was going to get back into this, but I don't know if it really matters to many people. But I used to talk about the producer price index and the consumer price index. And so the all-time high for the producer price index is June 2022. It was at 280.251. It has since dropped to 253.704. While that might seem astonishing, the index dropping and the consumer price index increasing basically means that the margin is still widening between the cost of the products that are being created, from the raw materials to a product. That price right there is getting wider because the consumer price index is increasing. So who's really, bearing the burden of this profitability? Because that wealth is not being distributed to the employees. It's not being distributed to lower prices, better quality, etc. It's widening the profit margin, and it's being delivered to a concentrated number of people. On top of mergers and acquisitions, consolidating the wealth, you're also taking more money from consumers. Ta-da, that's the end of the show. There isn't really much more to say here. Z says, eat the rich. Hashtag eat the rich. There's been a few shirts that I've been wanting to make, and that's one of them, but it takes some explaining to people. If I were to wear that out in public, I would get a lot of... What's odd is the very people who would benefit from greater equity, right? Like lower prices, better quality, better options, etc., right? Through more increased competition, causing lower prices, etc. If I were to wear a shirt that says "Eat the Rich," I would probably be verbally attacked as being like a socialist or whatever, when in fact I'm quite not. I just believe in ethical business, and leaving some money on the table isn't bad business. It's treating the customers with respect. Z says, people who are not the rich don't understand that they're not the rich. Yeah, well, I've said this often enough that if you're new here, I'll say it again. I certainly believe that there is a strata of people where there's a gamut, I should say, a range where there's You distance yourself from humanity on the far side one way, and you distance yourself from humanity on the far side the other way. But when you're rich, you have a choice. One side is survival. You have to distance yourself from your humanity to survive. When you're filthy freaking rich, you should be embracing your humanity and becoming an asset to society, not literally sociopathic and not giving a shit at all that you are treating people like garbage, or abusing your position, or basically being a tool of a human being. So, I think that sociopathy and being ultra rich go hand in hand. But I also think sociopathy is on the rise. So Z says, making a good salary, even a really good salary, is far different than these billionaires exploiting the shit out of people. Yeah. Yep. We are on the same page, Z. With all that said, I really do appreciate everybody hanging out. You are what powers ohmTown. I really do. I gush a lot at the end of each episode about people who are hanging out, lurking, and chatting. Z, you're a rock star. And Crazy Cat Lady, if you're still out there, thank you so much for coming and hanging out. And Bella, if you are still out there, appreciate you being here. I don't know if Toll is in the chat. They may be lurking. You are all awesome. And anybody that's lurking, you're awesome too. You're like cats. I say it every time. Lurkers are like cats. You power the internet. Everybody really helps us out. So stay awesome, everybody. That said, we always go back to the very front of the ohmTown Main Street and mash that little logo there. Did it refresh that fast?
Yes.
Wow. Now it's going to crash, like just completely. Anyway, let's see. Netflix subscriber growth rockets amid strike, password sharing crackdown. Yeah, we're going to have to talk about that.
A Pfizer plant was taken out by a tornado.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what that means.
But even more interesting than that, halted funding to the Wuhan lab.
Oh, well, maybe we won't get any more bad bats. Yeah, that's another one. So everybody out there, just so you know, you can always, if you find something in here, you can send an email to Mayor at ohmTown with the link. If you find a new source that you think would be an asset to aggregate the titles and the little snippets, then let me know. And you can always send a message to me in Twitch because my DMs are open. There is a Discord. You can access that, but I need to hype it up so more people go, but there isn't that much. And people don't like walking into a Toys R Us because there's nothing there. A Toys R Us is gone now, but my Discord looks like a Toys R Us because it's like gutted and empty, and there's a whole lot of shelving there, but there's nothing on it. Anyway, it's there. Wow, I'm really selling it positive, aren't I? Anyway, you can also go over to YouTube. We're there. There's a Patreon too, for crying out loud. I guess I need to put all of this up there. I'm everywhere, folks, but
there's also a TikTok.
Oh yeah, and the TikTok. I haven't been putting stuff on the TikTok. Got a whole bunch of favorites there, but that was cool. Any likes or whatever it's called. Anyway, I need to start doing that again too. I should probably stop rambling and let y'all go on about your evening. We have a whole bunch of articles all the time, so keep checking back in ohmTown, become a citizen, And I'm actually what I might end up doing, and it's really if y'all are interested in this, maybe I'll put it together. But I'm thinking about doing like a mailer each week of the articles that were discussed, so that it's all in one email, and you can get it in your mailbox and just click the links, and it's all consolidated, and maybe a little blurb or two or something like that. So, because I talk about business, technology, society, and we're expanding it to science on the regular. And I always enjoy conversation about it all. So, okay, with that in mind, I'm out of here. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com. And up there is the AI that keeps me in check. You want to say goodnight?
Good night, ohmTown citizens. We will see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Man, isn't that amazing? I mean, a sentient AI just kind of hanging out, chatting with us. It's so cool. Good night, everybody.